When we talk about tax and trust right now, it's like relationship between spouses or between partners. You can't cheat on your partner and you expect your partner to trust you.
Any imposition that is compulsory is a tax. Every other thing is nomenclature, just something to use to make people see it differently. Now, the moment any payment is compulsory, imposed by law, without direct benefit, it is a tax.
Hello, welcome to Just Africa, the show where we explore the people and ideas that shaping the continent's progress and tell the business stories differently. I am Emmanuel Amolo, and of course, today's episode of the show would not be run alone. I've got the very delectable Oluyemi Adebo sitting by my left. And Oluyemi, it's great to have someone who is going to help us break down a lot of things. But then again, we're talking tax today.
Yes.
Treat our guests and of course our audience.
Tax, trust. Tax and trust, actually. Yes. Okay, good afternoon, Lagos. Good afternoon, Nigeria. And good afternoon to you from wherever you're watching from across the globe. Welcome to Just Africa. I am Oluyemi Adebo. Talking about tax and trust. It's a huge topic, and it's going to be interesting because of
into Nigeria's 2026 stock taxes. The new tax law is going to start next year.
Yes.
It's good we're having this conversation now because we're going to be having a lot of breakdowns and questions that many people still don't have answers to.
Yes.
Our guest today will help us to explore that.
Now, first of all, we need to understand that Nigerians, Africans generally, have issues with tax payments in Africa. Reason being that they feel they don't see the effects of their tax. They feel I'm paying tax and there are no hospitals, there are no schools, there's no water, and so many things. They can go on and on and on and on and list the problems that we are facing despite paying tax. So there is this attitude of why should I pay? Why should I pay when I cannot get it? And now you are now bringing in a reform for 2026, saying that don't worry, there'll be a single window for tax payment. There'll be no tax here, tax here. You just make now that is where the issue is. Someone has been paying before and the person is not seeing the effect. Now you are coming up. Do you think the person will trust you enough? Now let me use something relatable. It's like a relationship. When we're talking about tax and trust right now, it's like relationship between spouses or between partners. You can't cheat on your partner and you expect your partner to trust you. You get it? So if you want the person to trust you, there are certain things that you need to do to let the person know that you can trust me now. Or I am not of the opinion of saying that, don't you trust me? No, trust is not something you ask people to do.
So essentially, what you are saying, the problem is not with tax.
Exactly. Okay. The problem is not with tax. The problem is not with the system of collecting the tax. The problem with tax and taxation in Nigeria is what you do with the tax
collected. It's okay. Of course, tax is the lifeblood of every economy, yet in Africa, it remains one of the most misunderstood and mistrusted tools of governance. As Nigeria prepares to implement the 2026 tax law, the continent watches closely. Will this reform usher in a new era of fiscal accountability or deepen existing tensions between government and enterprise? Our guests, Oluyemi Adebo, Senior Associate at Templars, is a leading voice in dispute resolution, taxation, compliance, and commercial law. He has represented governments, banks, and multinationals in complex tax disputes worth billions of dollars and helped shape judicial precedents that now define Nigeria's fiscal jurisprudence. This episode explores how Africa can fix its tax conversation, turning taxation from a point of contention into a cornerstone of trust. The goal is to separate perception from policy and help citizens, businesses, and of course policymakers see tax as not as punishment, but as partnership in development. I had to laugh when I was reading out your profile because when I heard resolving disputes in terms of dollars, big money. So it's obvious I do have a small person in the studio. Welcome to the studio, Mr. Adebo.
Thank you so much.
I did put barista deliberately.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate that.
But look, let's dive into the conversation about tax because I know one of the things that Mr. Oluyemi has been doing with the Presidential Fiscal Committee, educating people about taxes, but still, It looks like a lot of us are not even prepared for what is coming next year. Please, in summary first, let's start with that one. What do people need to understand about tax itself?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here and glad to be talking about this very important topic. So I think maybe just to keep it simple, I would start by defining what a tax should be.
Yes.
Right. So there are many definitions. People say a lot of things, but I think something concise for this conversation is that a tax is any compulsory imposition, right? Usually by law.
Yes.
And it could be on property, it could be on a person, it could be on transactions, and it often doesn't come with a direct benefit to the person paying it.
Okay.
And I feel like that clarification is important because it ties into what we're talking today about trust. So Nigeria's structure, the federal structure, also is mirrored in the types of taxes that we have.
Yes.
So you have taxes that are collectible by the federal government, by the states, and local governments.
Yes.
It's a constitutional arrangement.
Yes.
You have taxes such as value-added tax. Simply put, I buy a plate of jollof rice and chicken from XYZ restaurant, and the jollof rice is 1,000 naira. Nigerian law, Value-Added Tax Act, requires that 7.5% of the value of that rice and chicken should be borne by me who is buying the rice and chicken, in addition to what I'm paying for the value. So you pay a total of 1,000 plus 7.5% of 1,000 to XYZ restaurant. That's value-added tax. And now you have companies' income tax, usually paid by companies. Prior to the enactment of the new laws, there were like stages or rates graduating. You had 20% for medium companies, size companies. If you're a large company, 30% full. If you're a small company, of course, at a rate of 0%. So it was applicable at that stage. So if you have company ABC doing transport business, every year, or it's actually paid on preceding year basis, but every year, after you have done all your accounts, your profits, you pay companies income tax. You have petroleum's profit, it's paid by people doing upstream petroleum operations. You have quite a number of them. Capital gains tax. Maybe you sell assets. You maybe sell machinery, for instance, for 1 billion naira. CGT, capital gains tax, is charged at the rate of 10% on the gain from that sale. So if your profit was 100 million, that's 100 million, not the amount you sold.
Capital, yes, the profit.
It's charged at 10%. So all of these taxes, personal income tax, on income
tax,
of individuals, salaries, that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and also the structure is, like I said, the federal structure is mirrored. State governments collect some of them, like personal income tax for people who are residents in a particular state.
Yes.
Is typically collected by, that's why when you're remitting your pay as you earn, they call it payee. It will be those in Lagos, for instance, Lagos Internal Revenue Service you're dealing with. Now, for people in the armed forces, it will be the FRS. So it's a lot of,
Yeah, so now there's so many of these taxes that you reeled out quite a handful.
Yes.
How come, it's not even gainsaying. Many people now see, this is too many, this is too much. Yes. Why is it looking more like punishment rather than a civic duty?
Yes. I think the problem with that is a kind of system we run. I recall when the Presidential Advisory Committee on Fiscal Reforms and Tax Policy, when it was first formulated, the chairman of the committee had held an interview, and he said that from the research that the committee carried out, they found out that officially, there were 60 taxes in Nigeria. Unofficially, there were over 200. Now, you have those ones that, there's this law we call taxes and levies approved list of, you have cattle tax, you have wheelbarrow, you have bicycle, you have television, that's different from the other ones, police trust fund, tertiary education tax, a cocktail of taxes. But something he mentioned is that out of all these taxes, they realized that just 9 were giving rise to 98% of our tax revenue. So the question then is, why do we have these many? So we have a multiplicity of taxes. Now, it would seem that in a bid to generate more revenue, there are few people paying or bearing the burden of a larger population.
Yes.
So instead of efficient collection, there was an understanding that let's create more. Every small opportunity, you create a small agency, they're collecting tax just to make up. But it has always been said, a country can never tax itself out of poverty.
Yes.
It's literally impossible. So what we had was a situation where we were taxing poverty, we were taxing people's capital. You understand?
Instead of the profit, yeah.
You understand? So it's a problem we have, but that's where the new reform laws come into place, and the committee, some of the work they are doing is to, constrict the taxes that we have. For instance, those levies I mentioned, I know about 4 or 5. There is NASENI levy. NASENI is National Agency for Science, Engineering, and Infrastructure. You collect 1%. There is a Tertiary Education Trust Fund. You collect that one. There is NIDA, National Information Technology. There is but now it's been collapsed into one levy in the new reform laws, and it is collected at the rate of 4%. So the other things like Police Trust Fund, NYSC levy, some of those things have been, and we understand that there is ongoing engagement with the government with a view to, getting state governments, local governments to let go of some of these taxes that they're collecting, because it's just too much for the citizen.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I love the breakdown. At least many people, you are educating so many viewers out there. Now, I love the fact that you talked about everything is now being collapsed to form a single tax, maybe process or something.
Yeah.
Now, because of precedent, things that has happened in the past, most people, most citizens still have trust issues, because we are talking about tax and trust now.
Yeah.
Now, you're telling me that there will be no longer tax on certain areas, but some citizens still believe that there are some hidden taxes. Now, I won't blame them, because these are things that has happened previously.
Yes.
So how do you convince someone now that is watching that, okay, there will be no, this particular tax, everything has been collapsed into one, and so you are not going to be taxed again and again. How are you going to convince them that there are no loopholes, there are no little taxes that are hidden within the new policy that is coming up?
So, I mean, I perfectly understand where you're coming from and where a lot of the people who have this view are coming from. I remember you said something earlier when the program started. You said it's like when you're in a relationship and you cheat on your partner, what do you expect to come from it? And there's a trust problem. We have a situation where they say the social contract has broken. People no longer believe in the honesty of government. And you also mentioned, you said it is an us problem, not a tax problem.
Yes.
That's absolutely correct, because all over the world, truly speaking, tax is something that people are very skeptical about on the average. Almost everybody. Nobody likes to pay tax. I'd rather keep my money with me. But this is something you should note. In other parts of the world, like the Scandinavian countries, the Norways and all of them, they have some of the highest rates of tax in the world. They pay as high as 60% as tax. That's number one. But their tax to GDP ratio, which is supposed to be showing the level of effective tax collection, is as high as 40%. In Nigeria, we have 11. You understand? And when you check the misery index is what our people used to measure. You understand? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they poor? They are very, very satisfied people. So what's the paradox? You're paying tax, but you're happy. There's a reason.
Yeah.
It's because the system works. In Nigeria, we have what we call a lot of implicit taxes. Implicit taxes are like, I pay tax, but the things that tax should cover, I find myself still having to pay those things. And when you have that kind of situation, people are unwilling to trust the system. They don't want to pay. Tax compliance is not a matter of science. It is psychology. You understand? It is psychology. You can make brilliant laws. Brilliant laws will fail in a system of mistrust. But I think something good that we have going on with the regime, the presidential committee, I don't want to hold their brief, but I've seen a lot of what is going on, is that there is engagement. I see them every time holding stakeholder sessions, public engagement. You see someone say something on Twitter, say, this is what they quickly come. They correct the impression, and they're trying to teach people that this is what this system is bringing in place. And if I'm going to be frank, of course, we're not going in depth here, and we're not about to talk about legal advice of where you stand and all of that. But the point is, there are quite notable things that are coming in place. And truly, some of these laws are taking away some things that we used to have before. Not saying they're not replacing them with other things.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think maybe we can be optimistic.
Yes, that is where my next question is. How does small businesses, medium SMEs, medium businesses, small, medium enterprises, how do they benefit? How does this new reform benefit them? Because when you look at, especially, I'll use the light energy sector as an instance, where you look at how much they put into power, just for them to be able to generate power for them to run their businesses. You can imagine, because we still have epileptic power supply in Africa, not just Nigeria. So how does this new tax reform benefit small businesses?
Well, so for small businesses, there are quite a number of provisions in the new laws, but let me just pick a few.
Handful,
Yes. So for instance now, there's been an adjustment of the definition of who falls within the category of a small company.
Okay.
Right? Now, so under the new laws, if you're a company that your turnover is not more than 50 million naira, or your assets do not exceed 250 million naira, you don't pay any corporate tax. You understand? So it means you're exempted from companies' income tax. It is only people with above 150, and of course, with assets 250 and above, that pay companies' income tax. That's the first. The second is those levies I mentioned earlier that were consolidated, the 4% levy. It doesn't apply to small companies.
Okay.
So you're exempted from those. There are other things like where you have situations where you're supposed to collect VAT. So there's a provision for registration for VAT. Remember I said the person who bears the burden of the VAT is the person buying the thing. But the business has the obligation to collect on behalf of the tax authority.
Okay.
Now, there's a category called small businesses. The first one was small company. Now, there's small businesses. Small businesses are people whose turnover does not exceed 100 million naira. If your turnover does not exceed 100 million naira, you no longer have the obligation to collect value
VAT.
And you know the whole compliance, so you can focus on making money.
Oh, see, I have a follow-up question. Sorry, I have to cut you. Now, how do you measure the business profits? What if the business owner does not declare the true amount of profit they are making? How do you get to know?
So it's a problem we've had in the past, and it was because there was lack of proper records. The system was not intelligent. But now you recall, a lot of people were having problems when the government said they were going to do new tax IDs. That's a new thing coming. Well, not really new, but people were uncomfortable. Since 2019, when they passed the Finance Act 2020, there was already a provision that when businesses are being set up, they should make sure they get a tax identification number. But these things were not really taken seriously. Now, what they're trying to curb with the tax IDs, in Lagos State, you have, if you pay your salary, you get Lagos State tax clearance. They'll give you a number. You do federal, you get tax identification number. Maybe you go to Ogbomoso, for instance, you buy land, hypothetically. They tell you to come and register with them for tax. You get a number. Numbers all over the place. Now, something peculiar, like your NIN, can just be all that identifies you. Because whether you have TIN, you have Lagos State, you have Ogbomoso, everybody has NIN. Once they see your NIN, is a unique identifier. You understand? Just like we have a social security number in other climes. Now, if it's for a company, your registration number as a company is enough. And with that and bank records linked to your BVN, it is easy to trace every transaction, which is what leads me to where we come in. Now, if you wish to go to the petrol station to buy fuel, and you buy fuel and you don't collect receipt, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Because right now I have to get all the receipts.
Those things even fade. Once you collect it, take a picture, and for the records, because some people were saying, they're going to tax gifts. Nobody is doing that. But if you collect a gift, what is the proof you collected a gift? If you're doing a transfer now, let your description be there. Payment for XYZ. Because now is a system where records will be taken seriously. If they notice any suspicious transactions, you buy land from so person. And that's the way the system is. One person is trying to say they paid more amount to reduce their tax. And that person is trying to say they collected little to reduce their tax. So if you sell land to me and I lie that the land was bought at, say, 400 million, But you, on the other hand, you've reduced, you've stated that you actually sold it for, say, 200. My point is, once the tax authority notices a disparity between, they flag it, they call you for an audit. That's the way it should be. So verification. Yes, people lie, but with what I see is being planned, there will be much more accuracy.
Okay.
If there's anything that you want to pick away from this, is start to keep your receipts. Yeah. That was when they call you for audit.
Yeah.
That is where you now have to present these receipts. And then that's why you now remember, oh, I had this document somewhere. And I didn't give it. Oh, no, we have to get this serious.
Yeah,
but then again, these reforms that are being, thrown about. I was looking for the right word. And I understand what Taiwo Oyedele does. He tries to break down with simple analogies.
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to really understand it should get it. I was at an event 2 days ago, and one of the things the women complained about was this duplicity of taxes. They come in the guise of levies. And at some point, the woman had to ask this. She was asking the Minister of Women Affairs, is there a difference between tax and levy? Because at the point of this thing, I have paid plenty levies and they'll still come and take tax again. It's still money going away from me. Please, how do we fix this problem? Please enlighten our people.
Yes, so it is indeed an existing problem. But let me just clear the air. Remember at the beginning, I said any imposition that is compulsory is a tax. Every other thing is nomenclature. Just something to use to make people see it differently.
Okay.
Now, the moment any payment is compulsory, imposed by law, without direct benefit, it is a tax. Whether you call it levy or charge, it is a tax. Now, that's different from other categories of impositions, like maybe rates. For instance, if you collect water from Lagos Water Corporation and you're paying for supply of water, there's a key distinctive factor there, which is you are enjoying a service. If you are paying maybe so-called PHCN as it then was, you're paying for electricity supply. There is a benefit you are enjoying. That is not a tax.
Okay.
A tax means the government owes you no obligation to explain, statutorily speaking, where the money
is going
or
to.
what it is going to be used for. Although, realistically speaking, there should always be an explanation as to why. That's why they say tax is not quid pro quo. It's not consideration. I didn't collect from you so that I can give you. But of course, you have to show workings.
If that is the case, then why do people always argue, we don't see what I see tax for? It's not there now.
It's a principle. And I think it was coined so that people don't start filing actions in court. I pay tax. I did not see road. I pay tax. I did not see electricity. Those kind of things can overwhelm a system. So that's why they say taxes are not quid pro quo. It's an imposition by the sovereign. They think there should be a tax on this. And important thing is that tax is not even only for money. There are many uses. You pay taxes to redistribute income. We have a progressive tax system. The higher you earn, the more you pay. Yes. So it's a way of bridging the gap between the
rich and the poor.
It's a means of social control. If you don't want people to drink alcohol, you put higher taxes on alcohol so that it discourages them from buying it. So there are many uses of it. You understand? But the point is, people have a right to see benefits for paying taxes. So as to the original question, a levy, it is a tax. And that's what it is. But there's ongoing work. I hear there's also a bill that has been submitted to the National Assembly for removal of some levies, some rates from the Constitution, because there's just so many of them.
I ain't gonna lie. Growing up, one of the most annoying levies that usually came there was television or radio and television. And then you just see the thing come and it was like then we used to have like compound, different families and all. And the fathers will always come out and argue, you didn't buy television for me or radio. Why am I paying taxes on it? Because some of these things need to be explained. I know part of the reforms now will fix some of these problems. But let's understand what the trade-off would be. All right, let's agree that we want to raise money and then we want to do taxes. We don't want to lose out on making money because, look, to be honest, Nigeria has a revenue problem. We don't have enough money. That's why we keep borrowing. But then again, somebody will tell you, why do you want to now raise all the money just from taxes? Tell us why. Because from history, it shows that there's an imbalance. Our tax to GDP is still low. You mentioned 11%. How do we fix that problem?
Well, so I think prior to now, it was a mixture of different things. There was a time where they called us oil dependent. So all our revenue was coming from oil exports, crude oil, petroleum exports. Then there was the era, some like 10 years ago, where the tax people, it was like their era, they were calling for a change in approach, that other countries do well outside just resource. They get money from internally generated revenue, which is taxes. Let's start to rely on taxes. But I don't know, at some point you also lose the vision, and it now looks like you are not doing the thing well. So you are overtaxing people. And that's where we miss the picture. So collecting taxes, aiming to scale up revenue is good. It's very good. But when the system is now onerous, when foreign direct investment is discouraged, when non-resident companies don't find your country attractive, when people cannot even, it's like the woman on the road selling roasted corn. You're collecting 400 naira per day from her. I'm not saying, I don't know what the basis for it is. What is the margin of profit? Call something wheelbarrow tax. Somebody pushing a wheelbarrow from morning till night.
What is turnover? Exactly, how much do you think you will make in a day?
Make a lot of forced informal sector, collect, so there's a need to tone down. And I think that's where we're headed. Don't tax the seed, right? Let it bloom.
Let it bloom.
And then you will have something,
Okay, so I want to ask now, who should we hold responsible for failure to use generated tax money rather, when they fail to use them properly? Who should we hold responsible?
Straight answer, the government.
Okay, so the citizens have rights to sue the government, right?
No. So this is where it comes in. I was saying earlier, it is not a justiciable right. Under the Constitution, you have the rights that you can bring an action on, and those you cannot. And that's why we're where we are. But I think something else can be done. First off, from our own side, as citizens, we need to change our approach. We need to be more interested. I don't want to call anybody's names, but I think we should be less interested in somebody who is pulling off their shirt on the TV and flexing muscles, or somebody who is, this dancing, reality TV show.
Yes.
You need to be less interested in that. Don't give that person 10 million views. Focus more when they say the National Assembly is reading the budget. What is going into the budget? When they say they release the report of expenditure, how were my taxes utilized? You will notice even the most irresponsible politician will begin to now take those things seriously because it's gaining traction. So from our own side, I'm not blaming us, but I think we need to move to that phase where it is a core part of our lives to hold leaders accountable. That's number one. Number two is that the government itself must be transparent and open.
Okay.
Explain to me how you spent this money. Expenses. Let me be able to see on the billboard, for the year 2024, XYZ state generated XYZ amount. This was used for this. Let people have freedom of information to be able to read through. A major problem we may not be able to solve is still the fact that you can't take government to court for not using the taxes well.
That's why I first of all asked the question, who should we hold?
But I feel like there's a bigger loss for the government when the people that are supposed to pay the tax are not motivated to pay the tax. They did a poll. They asked that how many people think that companies should pay tax. 29% of people, 27 thought so. How many people think individuals should pay tax? 17%. The taxpayer morale is low. That should be a big heartbreak for any government. Your own people don't feel the need to trust you with their resources.
Okay, should we say that maybe citizens should, I know this question sounds funny, maybe citizens should hold back the money for a while until the government decides to be transparent enough, to be accountable enough, to be responsible enough, to use their money properly. Don't you think so? Well, maybe taxpayers should just hold back for a while. Then by the time you have proven yourself, that's the trust we're talking
irreparable
about.
damage will happen because this is the lifeblood of the country. And in any case, please don't hold back. Otherwise, lawyers will eat too.
I was going to come from a place where, how do we raise taxes at the same time not kill productivity. Because look, I was talking to the lady who came here yesterday, and I was saying, look, majority of our economies in Africa are dependent on small scale businesses. And many of them are literally managing to survive. If we overtax them, many of them will die out. How can we balance it out? We will tax to raise money, but we don't want you guys to die. How do we balance it?
Yes. So again, everything tax is always a function of policy and then law. So like the reforms we have, there is an attempt to, be less burdensome on small businesses, on lesser earning, low income earners. Yeah. For like personal income tax now, they've changed the rates.
Okay.
Right? Now, the rates we have, it starts from people earning 800,000 naira per annum.
Yes.
And the rate is 0. So meaning if you're collecting minimum wage, and note that 800,000 is not your gross income. It's your income after they remove everything you do. Your pension, all of those. After that, if all you have is 800,000, you will not be taxed. The next one is 2.2 million per annum. I think that's at the rate of, 15%. Then I think the next is 9. Basically, the rates are cascaded in a way that you end up finding that people that are earning 50 million naira and above per annum are the ones that bear the larger burden. So it's a progressive rate. And the low income earners tend to pay less. You understand? Now, that's one. In terms of companies, remember I said earlier, categorization of companies now, if you don't get up to 50 million turnover, you won't need to pay companies income tax. It's a way to reduce how much, you understand, the companies have, to pay. Then there's also the general attitude of compliance obligations, registration, collecting things. Now, most importantly, there are some new provisions that we have that show that we know you are big boys. We know you are heavyweight. You should pay more. You have things like effective tax rates for companies, non-resident companies, of 15%. If you don't get up to that, and the people in question here, we're talking about people whose group turnover is 750 million euros. They are focusing more on getting those people to pay more. You understand? You have things like force of attraction. You're basically trying to find how the bigger guys are the ones that, pull the weight. And I think generally the attitude of the new laws we have is to reduce stress on small companies and focus. According to the committee, they say that they're not even bothered about the informal sector. Because 97% of the people in the informal sector don't even have the strength to carry the economy. Maybe just 3% of them, some of them are earning more than bank CEOs, are people doing content creation, and cryptos and all of that. So, but like they're calming down with these people, taking it easy with them, and the laws are focused more on, because we have a progressive system.
There's a question. Somebody says, so if, for example, I'm a small business, and then do my staff still pay tax?
Yes, now.
Absolutely. I expect him to say yes because he actually speaks for the government. That was one.
No.
The government. No.
I'm a businessman.
I think I get the question because you did explain that small businesses, they won't essentially pay
depending on the threshold. We're talking about their own tax.
Yeah. So their staff, would they still get like income tax?
You might be a small business and be paying people big money, but the same rules apply. If you work in a small business and the turnover is less than 50 million, chances are the people in that business may not be earning a lot to put them on a high level on the personal income tax scale.
Okay.
So ultimately, they are also benefiting from reduced personal income tax.
Okay. Because these are two different things. Company tax and personal income tax.
And I'm not saying the system is perfect, but I can say because I'm a lawyer in the private sector, and our job is to help businesses thrive, manage, plan tax. It may not be perfect, but it seems to be a step in the right direction if properly implemented.
Very good clause. I do hope that people get to understand some of these conversations that we have, especially when in terms of them relating with their employees.
Yeah.
And of course, need to keep records because right now many companies don't even have what you call bookkeeping, proper bookkeeping, and stuff like that, because it will come into play when it's necessary. Now, how can citizens be better educated about the purpose and the use of taxes? How can we educate our people?
Yes. I think, again, we need to be committed as a people to show interest in what happens in our country. That's the first step. A willing mind to know. That's the first. I happen to see a lot of things on social media about the new taxes and all of those. It did seem like there was some misunderstanding, and it often comes from lack of sensitization. So I think the government, also the committee, which I think they're already doing, is taking its time to educate the people. You see them going to churches, see them going to different places. There are also a lot of NGOs that can do better, especially for January next year when the laws take effect, to teach people how it works. I know that the presidential committee, I will not be able to provide it because I'm not on the committee, but they have like a Twitter handle, they have Instagram, they have TikTok, they have Facebook, they have YouTube, and they have QR codes on each of these places helping you to calculate your tax. If you don't know how to do it, put your income there. It will tell you how much you earn. You see them responding to questions. So if we can sustain this kind of effort, and if government can show, the way you have a national orientation agency, have a series on national television dedicated to teaching people taxes. Send people to the markets, not because you want to draw their blood. Send people there to educate the market people about what tax obligations they have. Is it presumptive tax? What am I supposed to be doing? What are the obligations I have to government? If I'm confused, where do I go? For instance, there's a new tax ombudsman in the new tax laws. That person is supposed to occupy an office of complaints. You're not happy with how the tax authority has treated you, come to us. You have a complaint about the process, help us. Those people can recommend to tax authority to act in a particular way. But people don't even know about these things. Sensitization will help them.
If you work for a company that do not pay or remit your taxes, how do you say you just recommend for them to resign? How do you say that come down to look at them? Say you just resign, or how do you do it?
Ultimately, you have to be wary. I don't have a straight cut advice on what the person should do, but I don't think you should remain in such a place. Of course, without prejudice to the fact that you will now remain unemployed. But you should first start with maybe some form of engagement, because if you notice a lot of these tax obligations, and when you say they're not remitting tax, it means the individual's tax, not the company's tax, right? Because the company's tax, when you don't pay it, the obligation is for the company. The penalties and everything that comes with tax evasion, it goes with the company. But for the individual, your tax obligation is yours. So the company is not paying it, but you are there. There's a problem. The company's obligation relates to things like pay as you earn. So what happens is that before they pay you your salary, they deduct and make sure they remit. Now, they will be in violation of the rules regarding mandatory deductions. But you as the person, it is called personal income tax. You're not paying it. You are the one in the breach. You understand? So you have to, either you're engaging with the HR, with the business, and if you see that this is a problem, you may need to, find a way out of it. There are other things I would have said, but I mean, maybe this is not the appropriate forum for those, but you need to be wary about this. Pension filings, your tax filings, you need to take them seriously. You want to travel, you want to, almost anything you want to do in Lagos State or any other state now, you want to buy land, you need to show that you're tax compliant. And at that time, with the accrued penalties, I don't think anybody should be.
Okay, so you have advised both government and corporate bodies when it comes to tax. And you also say that the tax conflicts keep reoccurring every time. So what are the causes, the weaknesses that you've encountered in this structural system of taxation? What are those weaknesses, and why do they keep reoccurring?
I think the biggest problem, or I won't say the biggest problem, one of the major problems we have is the state of the laws, right, with tax disputes. Or maybe I should start from the fact that generally people will always fight. There will always be reason for people to disagree. And sometimes people dispute tax as a matter of strategy. Just to buy yourself time. just take it, drag it, and all of those for as long as possible. Then eventually you come to some consensus. There are some people like that. There are people who genuinely believe the government is mistaken. My business is so well structured. Government cannot believe that I don't have anything to pay or I'm not paying up to this amount. Okay. It results in disputes. Then the ones that are more prominent are unclear laws. You see, even for lawyers and tax accountants and tax advisors, the system is very complicated. That's why a lot of people generally just run away from tax. Before now, now we have the National Nigeria Tax Act. It consolidates all the taxes into one law, the way you have a tax code. So if you are looking for any type of tax, just open that book. You find it there. Before, you check Companies Income Tax Act, Capital Gains Tax Act, even the laws that are not tax laws, they contain tax provisions. You check them, then you have Finance Act 19, 20, 21, you have 23, you have circulars, you have regulations. Some circulars will override the others. So you are buried in an avalanche of papers and laws. Sometimes it's not even clear. And also because our laws are not well developed, you have a lot of gaps. Lawyers call these kind of things lacuna. We have a lot of, because we deal with a lot of foreign clients, people who want to come and do business in Nigeria. To them, if this law is not clear, why are you trying to find a way to rope me into the scenario? And there's a tax principle that whenever there's lack of clarity in the tax law, it must always be interpreted in favor of the taxpayer because he does not owe you the duty. You should have made the provision clear. So you have European countries and a lot of developed economies following OECD templates. They've gone far. It's like you're comparing a Tesla to maybe a Volkswagen of like 1970. So we're still playing catch up. So minus the litigious nature of the fact that people must always fight, a lot of problems come from the fact that laws are unclear, they are complex, and it just has to happen.
Okay, so I'll take you back a little.
Yeah.
So when you talked about educating the masses on tax payments and all that. Now, one of the major problems I see or foresee is not just educating the people or talking to them, it's the language barrier. Do you people see that at all? And does the government understand the fact that language barrier could be a hindrance to communicating? Because communication is not about talking to the people now, for them to understand and get the feedback from. You understand? Yeah. So does government or the agencies that are trying as much as they can to make the people understand, do they consider the language barrier and do they ensure that they break this thing down to the very minimum? We don't mind if you have to use our dialect to communicate. Do they put all that into consideration?
Yes, to be fair to the government, or at least some governments, I know that these things happen. Many years ago, I happened to work with the then board secretary of the Lagos Internal Revenue Service. I was like an advisor to him on informal sector operations. And I recall that there was a special directorate for informal sector. Our job every day, today we are going to Alaba, tomorrow we are going to Ikmori, the other day we are going to Tejo Show Market. And what we do is we speak Yoruba. Sometimes you bring them in a hall, a room with a public address system, and you tell them, this is what you do. And there was a resurgence, or there was just this realization by Lagos State government, the tax authorities then, that they needed to engage the market people, the people who sell spare parts. These are and it will not be in English. It will not be in thesaurus grammar. You understand?
You have to understand.
Broken down. And I think I would like to believe, so I don't do a lot of that now because, it's also a thing of sector. You rarely find FRS talking to people in the market because the taxes that they collect are rarely those kind of, people, not saying, never, but you are likely to find people who are interested in collecting market fees or some, those kind of things, or want to tax those selling clothes in Balogun market to be more interested in educating them. But I think there should be a coordinated and federal approach towards breaking. You can do it in as many languages. Do it in vernacular, we call it the broken English. Do it in Hausa, in Yoruba, in as many dialects as you can do. People like NYSC graduates looking for jobs, National Orientation Agency, this is an opportunity to engage people. And you speak your language. Are you TIV? Where are you from? Come and speak and explain. Do it in sessions, So I think a lot more can be done.
Yes. Now, educating the masses is not enough. How about educating the tax collectors? Do you people do that?
Why you say you people?
Maybe the government. Okay, maybe the government. Do they do that? Do they educate the tax collectors? Because let's go back to the very, very small ones. We don't have to see a tax collector season clothes on a bus conductor.
You see.
You don't have to start carrying a pepper seller. I have seen these. You see the woman maybe just coming and you just pack all her wares and you take it. Do we have to go through all that?
I think I don't know if to say I'm happy for what you just said, but I also feel like it's an eye-opener as to the perception that the public has. I dare say, I don't know if anybody has a contrary view, the people you're talking about are not tax officers. They are not government officials. In what we do, we call it tax touting, where government pawns out or delegates the function of collecting some peculiar taxes to people. So like the way you have the people collecting taxes on the road from bus drivers,
yes.
Those people do not work for Lagos Internal Revenue Service. They do not work for the Federal Inland Revenue Service or Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. Wow. Those are instruments of the government for what they deem to be an administratively efficient way of collecting. And it's a problem. These taxes we call nuisance taxes, parking, road, this kind of... Yeah. So it may have been put in place because it is maybe administratively efficient, but you see the perception is tainted. The public sees people... I actually had a problem. 2 people were fighting on the road. They were fighting for this engine cover on the car. They were fighting, dragging. I was driving. This was an express. By the time the guy eventually pulled off his engine cover from the tax collector, he just pulled it into my car. He dragged a line straight from the front mirror to the rear. Straight line into the body. Not that, those ones they say you use brake oil. Not those ones. I just imagined...
Who do you know is responsible?
Few inches, the guy, I hit him, he dies.
Yeah.
First thing that happens, someone comes there, God forbid, manslaughter.
Yeah.
Oh, why were you driving at this speed? Didn't you see them fighting? Why is that even a thing? Why is that a way of enforcing the tax? So those people, I would not call them tax authorities. They are not. The real tax authorities, they have their job cut out for them. They do trainings, but even now we're saying they need to do more. Look at our contemporaries. Ghana, South Africa, Egypt. You see professionalism, you see transparency. Tax authorities understand better. And I see that government is beginning to recognize, and we're doing a lot of job. They go to trainings, conferences. I will tell you for a fact, some of the best hands that are now going in-house are the people that work in FRS and LIRS and Ogun State IRS and Kwara State. They are very intelligent. They know this thing. So consistency, have a module, ensure that it's going on. And these guys, I don't know about them. I really don't know. I cannot speak for them.
Sticking with education, how early do you think we need to start to educate the populace or population? How early do we need to start to let them understand the essence of taxes?
I don't know what happened when I did social studies as a child, but I think that we should have started from then.
Primary school.
Yeah.
Yes. Make it ingrained as a civic responsibility. It's a duty you owe your country to pay taxes. But it's a two-way street. If you're going to be doing that kind of thing, you have to be sure that the government understands the trust that is being reposed in it. It's like the way you tell people you have a duty to defend the national colors. So when you're singing the national anthem, you show this is how people should feel about tax. You should feel patriotic and building my nation. But it's not just about teaching. It's also about,
Very correct. Because just to add to what Amulu said, these things are taught in civic studies right now.
Yeah.
So the higher you go, even if at primary school levels, when you were doing social studies and civic, you do not understand, when you get to the senior secondary school, one should be educated enough.
Yes.
But like you said, that is actually taking me to the next question, actually. Not just teaching it, making them to understand it. And that's policy. Sometimes policies are made on paper. Implementation, we don't say that. So how how do we do this right now? Because more policies, more laws are coming out every day. We're trying to make it easier for the populace. We're trying to do this and make it easier. Are they just paperwork? They are beautiful, fine on paper, but implementation. Because that's a big challenge in Nigeria and Africa generally.
Yeah. So policies they're supposed to be more long term, and you're not supposed to be having frequent changes of policies. We have a national tax policy, and I know there was one in 2017. There's been some adjustments to the national tax policy. It's supposed to set out the general direction of how we want our tax system to be. Is it going to be let's focus less on petroleum-based taxation? Let's focus more on this. Will it be, do we want a proportionate tax system, meaning pay equal taxes? Or if you earn low, you pay low. If you earn more, you pay more.
Okay.
I can say for a fact that some of the things we see today are a reflection of the tax policy, but we're not still where we need to be. For instance, there's a rule in the tax laws that whenever you want to make a new law, there must be at least, I think, 3 months space before the law takes effect. These new laws coming in next year, they were signed into law in June. And they're coming in January. Some people think even 6 months is not enough because of the overhaul that is going to happen. But at least there's some commitment to showing the tone of the policy in the law. So those kind of things. So we do have policies, but I think we can do better in better streamlined, policies. The way the developed nations, you have OECD guidelines on this, on transfer pricing, on base erosion and profit shifting. This is how we should ensure that multinationals are not running away from paying tax income. We need to be a bit more, granular. And
as somebody who has observed the way our tax environment has been, and then what the presidential committee is proposing for next year, what differences would you say you would hang on to? Like, this is where we're coming from, this is where they're saying we would be at. What are the things that we should be optimistic about?
I think we should be optimistic, number one, about better and seamless administration of taxes. Someone who constantly advises business, I can see like there's a new air in terms of administration. The FRS will cease to exist. FRS maybe used to mislead people into thinking that they were only for federal. It's actually a federation thing. But now the name has changed will be changed to Nigeria Revenue Service. So you know that it is for the whole Nigeria. Now they'll be collecting they are collecting all types of revenue due to the government of the federation. So you're not going to have different agencies overlapping. This is my own power. I'm going to collect this one. It's now being channeled towards the FRS. I don't know whether that will be 100% successful because there are some, levies, some taxes that are special for some types of government agencies. But at least this shows that there's an intention to streamline collection, right? One. Two, you have things like before, if you get an assessment from a tax authority, if the tax authority tells you pay XYZ amount, normally the process is that you write what we call a notice of objection. I don't agree with you. This money is too much. Then the tax authority should either revise it or take away the assessment, or they can write to you and tell you, we refuse everything you said. This is they call it a NORA. It's a notice of refusal to amend. But you see the problem, sometimes it might take 2-3 years. You will not even get a NORA from the FRS. So you don't even know whether or not they agree with you. But you keep looking over your shoulder. Oh my God, are they going to come back one day? Am I going to be in trouble? Penalties keep accruing. But now the law says, if after 90 days of serving them your notice of objection, they don't come back to you, it is deemed that they have agreed.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah, you understand? You have things like that. You also have provisions that talk about, there's something we call security deposits. Before you challenge a tax, there's some provisions that say you have to pay that tax first. Then you can now come and challenge it. It was always a problem. People felt it was unconstitutional. I'm challenging something. You are making me pay. In fact, the worst part are the types of taxes that they call them best of judgment. So the tax authority will just look at you and say, I think this is what you are supposed to pay. Can tell you, Mr. X, pay 10 billion naira. The person might, after all the audits and drags, might not even pay up to 1% of that amount. Now imagine you make me deposit 10 billion that you might not even have. You understand?
Yeah.
Now there's an amendment of the provisions of the, I think that would be the Joint Revenue Board Act, saying that amount, when you're going to the Federal High Court appealing a decision on tax, you only pay 20% of the tax. For me, some people would have wanted 0, but I think it's a major step. In some countries, it's 10%. I think 20% is acceptable. So let me explain why it's good, because you think I should not be paying what I'm contesting or any part of it. But also on the side of government, if a dispute should go on for 5-6 years, government cannot have the money. So it's a two-way street. Tax authority doesn't want to let go of money for a protracted period. Taxpayer, but a delicate balance is some amount. And I think some of these kind of things are showing that administration is going to be much better. Tax ID, electronic VAT invoicing. So now you have to go electronically to to track all these kind of things.
Yeah.
So it's going to be better. Also things like value-added tax. I think I should have mentioned that earlier. For small businesses. So there are things we call value-added tax exempted items. Means you don't pay VAT on them. Like raw food.
Okay. Yes.
Food, basic food items, or like household items like sanitary pads and stuff like that. But there was a problem, and the problem was that if you are a manufacturer of water, for instance, before you can manufacture a bottle of water, you would have maybe paid for plastic, paid for whatever, you would have imputed, and in those things you would be paying VAT.
Yes.
But the final output would not have VAT from the consumer because nobody pays VAT on that kind of item. So what did they now do? They changed it from exempted to zero rated. Some people asked, what are you doing?
Does that mean?
Zero rated, exempted. So what it means is that you actually put VAT when you are selling your bottle of water, but you put it at 0%. Now that gives you the opportunity to come back to claim your input VAT from the government.
Okay.
Again, I mentioned implementation. They say you'll be able to claim it within 30 days. Let's see whether these kind of things will be properly implemented.
That makes sense. I don't know. You see, maybe you have to have a master class or something. This is a breaking. While you were talking, I was like, wow. Yeah. Like, this is like opening my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm not a business person per se, but they're opening my eyes so I can even educate somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay. In your experience, right?
Yeah.
What were the common disputes that you always found in terms of or tax-related disputes? What were the common ones? What were people always coming to you with?
Well, my experience may be a bit nuanced, or how would I put it? Qualified. Okay. Because depending on where you're playing, it would show the kind of dispute you're having.
Okay.
If you're dealing with a lot of multinationals, you'll be having disputes relating to whether the multinational has a tax presence in Nigeria or not. So I would not want to call the names of anybody.
Yeah, sure, of course.
But imagine you're advising, hypothetically, a Google, Facebook, Snapchat, X. What is the problem you're having? It's simple. Facebook, for instance, maybe it's not in Nigeria, maybe it's in the US. But people in Nigeria are using Facebook. And maybe there's some money that Facebook is generating from the digital services or the traffic. How does Nigeria's FRS tax Facebook, who is not in Nigeria? Exactly. These are the kind of issues. And should Facebook, what would be the index for determining whether Facebook has taxable presence in Nigeria? This is what we call significant economic presence under tax, right? So it means there's a provision of the law that if you're carrying on these kind of services, digital, these kind of things, and you're making XYZ amount threshold from this kind of businesses, then you are supposed to be paying tax in Nigeria. I also have problems, the kind of problems I face. I'm dealing with people that don't do digital, but they are also not in Nigeria. Maybe they manufacture fruit juice in Norway, and people are buying it in Nigeria. A company creating fruit juice in Norway and people buying it in Nigeria, do they have taxable presence in Nigeria? This is what we call whether there's a permanent establishment.
Yeah.
Do you have a base? Is it that when you finish doing the juice, you send it to Nigeria to a warehouse? That's a fixed base. Somewhere where you are now distributing to people. Or do you have an agent in Nigeria who is helping you sell? So even though you are not here, you are enjoying our goodwill and you are getting money from our people. So advising multinationals on this kind of things.
Yes.
Right? Generally, I find myself more in space where I'm talking about, should this person have been paying tax? What is the volume of it? More on a corporate, level than individual level. You understand? Yeah.
Okay, so we're still talking about the tax reform for 2026.
Yeah.
Now, is it just for the federal level, or the states also? They don't have to go on using the old tax system. Are they also collapsing their own tax system into the 2026 tax reform? Is that what they're doing? Because if they're not, I see conflicts somehow in the process.
Yes, there is always conflict. The reforms actually they are national in nature, but national is subjective. Like I said earlier, there are a lot of taxes and you share the burden. Maybe if I can explain now, for instance, if you're talking about stamp duty, right? Normally, stamp duty is based on a law by the federal government because it's on what we call the exclusive legislative list. That belongs to only federal. But in the law, to collect that type of tax, right?
Yeah.
It is based on, if it is a transaction between two companies, it will be collected by federal.
Okay.
If it is based on transaction between two individuals, it's collected by state. So it means if they amended the stamp duty law, it affects both federal
and
state.
Yes.
Remember that this tax act, if it's an act, it is for federal. It's passed by National Assembly. States still have their own powers under the Constitution for the taxes that they are supposed to collect. Like, the way people say value-added tax is conflicting with hotel consumption tax.
Yes.
So if you go and lodge in a hotel now, you will pay VAT. You also pay Lagos State consumption tax. So this reform has not touched on Lagos State power.
Did you see what? Now you see why the question came up.
It will bamboozle.
But remember I said earlier that it has been said that there are ongoing engagements. This one is not about law. You can't force a state to change its own law.
Yeah.
So it has to be a national effort for a constitutional amendment, or rather, even if you will not amend the constitution, can you just, for the safety of everybody, tone down on some of the taxes? You might have the power to collect a tax, but if you don't take it, nobody will sue you for not collecting it. So I hear there's a political approach towards, toning down on some of, but it does not affect state taxing powers. It doesn't.
Because I see a situation where someone will say, but the law says, the law says, and this says, you see the tax collector telling you, that is for Nigeria, that is for federal, and that is not for Edo State.
Yeah.
I would like, I'm having Mr. Adebo break down this thing for us and open our eyes to a lot of conversations. But only in wrapping up, you definitely have to tell us, if you were to envision a healthy tax system for Nigeria, Africa, what would it look like?
I think a healthy tax system that I will see, sometimes we overlook the small things. Right from time, there's this popular economist, Adam Smith. He wrote a book called Wealth of Nations. And part of the things in that book is supposed to be things that every good tax system should have. This is year 2025.
Yeah.
That book was probably written in 1770 something. You look back, you realize that those basic elements are still applicable. Number one, certainty. A tax system must be certain, meaning people must know how much tax they will pay, how they will pay it, who will collect it. Not that people are fighting, it's me, it's me. It must be clear. So this addresses the first question, the point I talked about, which is unclear laws.
Yes.
If there is certainty, your laws will be clear. And it's that simple. It's not going to be that you'll be dancing in the gray. And you'll be, sometimes a lot of multinationals are wary about the tax system because before they started their business, they did some, some analysis of what their obligations would be. And they were told, you will not do this thing. But all of a sudden, even though the law is not clear, the government is trying to impose, no, you shouldn't have that. I should know A is A. 2 is convenience. The tax system must be convenient. It must not be onerous. It must not be burdensome for me to pay taxes, for me to comply. And that also extends to multiplicity. It should not be too much. The next thing we should have is equity or equality. It means equity in that the higher you earn, you should pay more. Person earning more should not be paying the same thing as a person earning less than him. It should be progressive in nature, right? Then you should have what we call administrative efficiency. Administrative efficiency means that the amount you're even spending in collecting tax should not be more than the tax you are collecting.
True.
You understand?
Yeah.
You're spending so much money hiring hands, doing all of this, but when you look at your yield, your tax to GDP, it's nothing to write home about. No. So we need to be a bit more efficient. And the tax system must be reflective of modern trends. It should support foreign direct investment. It should support businesses to grow. SMEs should be able to thrive. People should be willing. This is for me, this is where the line is. People should be, your tax system should encourage compliance. On their own, let them say, it gives me pride to be in the system.
Yeah.
Not that once you hear you have to get tax ID, people are running. How do I not get it?
Yeah.
Do I have a separate account? Should I do crypto? Should I? Let people be encouraged. And it's all a function of policy, implementation, and building back broken trust.
Thank you so much for being our guest for today. I had to sit down at some point. I was like, I'm just nodding my head. I'm receiving lecture.
Yes.
And I'm sure our viewers today would definitely have had one or two things to learn from today's conversation. We'll definitely bring you back around that time. Perhaps I'll pack all my lawyer friends and I don't know on the table and let's have a conversation. But thank you so much for bringing insights.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Hopefully, the trust that we are hoping to get from taxes that will be established with this kind of conversations that we've had. And we'll definitely have more conversations about it.
Yes.
Okay. Today's conversation with Oluyemi Adebo reminds us that tax is not a tool for punishment. It is a language of trust between people and their government.